Welcome everybody to the New Fly Fisher. I'm your host, Colin McEwen. Today we're here in beautiful New Brunswick on the Cains River, fishing for Atlantic salmon. I'm here with Brian Freeman and some of his friends, and Brian's going to explain some of the great tactics you need to know in order to catch Atlantic salmon. It's going to be a great show. Stay with us. The New Fly Fisher is sponsored by Bank of Montreal Atlantic Salmon Federation MasterCard, Ducks Unlimited, Canada's conservation company, Teton Fly Reels. We are fishing today in beautiful New Brunswick, home to some of the most incredible natural beauty that exists in Canada. The waters we are fishing, the Cains, is a tributary of the renowned Miramichi River, which has drawn anglers to this province for well over a century. The Cains is unique because its waters are usually tinted coppery red, a result of mineral deposits at its headwaters. This peaceful and serene river meanders through a series of picturesque lowlands and meadows. Cains is truly a nature lover's paradise because abundant wildlife can be spotted at almost every bend in the river. Brian Freeman is the owner of Escape Anglers, which is well known for its wide range of hard-to-find fly-tying materials and uniquely dyed items specific to Atlantic salmon fly tyers. Bryant was raised as a fly fisher and salmon angler by his family on the banks of the Medway River in Nova Scotia. Years later, he moved to New Brunswick and quickly learned many of the salmon rivers that exist throughout this province. Bryant represents everything I like about fly fishers. He is humble about his considerable casting and fly tying skills, and he is a passionate conservationalist. I'm truly fortunate to have been given the opportunity to spend a few days with him on the Cains and learn a little bit more about Atlantic salmon fishing.
Salmon is born in the river the eggs are laid in the fall and they hatch early in the spring. Then there's a small sac that keeps them alive, alive until they're allowed to feed on the microorganisms in the river. So they live off of protein. Bugs, caddisflies, mayflies, and stoneflies are their main sources of food while they're in the river as par. When they get older, on the third year, if they have a good year growing, they turn into what we call a smolt. And the smolt is the salmon that's going to sea that year. He goes out to the ocean. He feeds voraciously on small fish out in the ocean and in the estuary as he's leaving. And as the salmon has nothing to live on but his wits and his mouth, he takes his opportunity to catch any bug he can at any time. While he's at Iceland and Greenland, of course, he's feeding on the shrimp. Then he comes back to the river. On his way back to the river, he has one desire, and that's to propagate his species. He does not feed. The scientists tell me he does not feed. He will not. He is not taking those flies for a food source. So my theory behind this is he's chasing that fly simply from instinct of his life as he was born in the ocean, born in the river, went to the ocean, had to gain enough weight to come back and propagate his species. And if I throw that fly into his window, it's a quick instinct. He's going to take that fly much more quicker than if I drift it in. He has time to think about it, and it's not what he's looking to do.
Brian, if you could explain a little bit about your rule for hooking a fish and releasing a fish, because I know like the atypical rule, and the one I was certainly raised on for Atlantic salmon was 1 pound, 1 minute max, which is basically Lee wool stick them. What do you use?
I don't. Most of the people say that I play my fish a little fast. I try not to go over the 5-minute period with any fish, regardless of his size or whatever. I feel is the fish has given me the opportunity to grace his presence. He's given me that opportunity, and I want to see him survive. So I want to get that fish back in as quickly as possible. So 5 to 7 minutes. If I'm over 5 minutes landing a fish, up into the 7 minutes, it's because I'm a little sloppy picking him up with my hand. I have him in my area within that 5 minutes. And then it's usually trying to control the fish so I can get a hold of his tail or get a hold of the leader to pluck it out and let it go.
The Cains is what I would call an intimate river, one which fits comfortably like an old leather glove or jacket. The wading is generally easy in most locations, and you can make arrangements to rent cabins in the area. Canoeing the river, especially in the summer, is very popular and quite relaxing. There are few man-made sounds, and the most discernible noise is the chirping of birds and the wind in the overhanging trees. We will be right back with more fly fishing.
Brian, if you could explain a little bit about this spot right here. This obviously looks very promising. I think you referred to it as the hot spot, but what makes it a hot spot for the salmon?
Well, as you can see, just from the bridge up to this area, there seems to be a channel. You can see a flow where the water's not too fast. The fish can slide up very easily in the back currents of these rocks without any effort whatsoever, and just change positions from one area to another very easily. So what he's doing, he's using the bars and the back currents to maneuver his way up the river with the least effort possible. Most fishermen, when they're fishing, they fish these areas, but they tend to get too far out into the water and push the fish out. So what we're doing to fish this area here is to use, not to get too far in the water, to fish the hot spots without disturbing the fish, without moving him out of the way.
Wading in too far is probably one of the most common mistakes made by anglers. We all seemingly want to wade in as far as we can and then cast to the far bank. The reality is that there are probably fish just at our feet if we just take the time to look carefully enough. This angler has literally waded into a salmon run, and from our advantageous position on a bridge, we can see numerous salmon tight against the bank. In fact, we can clearly see the silhouette of one very large salmon just yards away from where this angler is wading. Before wading into any river, take a few minutes to carefully examine the stretch you intend on fishing. Look for seams, structure, and any potential lies where fish may be holding. This rule of thumb applies not just to Atlantic salmon fishing, but any river fishing where you're going to wade.
Now I'm dry fly fishing at the very quiet end of the pool, the tail out, we call it. And it's one of the most susceptible places to pick a fish up with a dry fly. The fish tend to come in the summertime and lay in these pools all summer in the deeper water, cooler. They'll lay here until the water gets cooler, and then they can move up and on to the spawning beds. But they don't spend much effort laying in these areas. They're susceptible to being taken with a dry fly more so than a wet in an area like this. And most generally, they take when the fly is thrown in their window. A fish's window is approximately 3 feet either side of the fish, up, down, left, right, doesn't matter which side. And when the fly hits the water, 90% of your fish will take the dry fly on the initial strike of the water immediately. If the fly is allowed to float into his window, he has too much of a chance to study really what's there. So what I think the reason being for this phenomenon of taking immediately on the as the fly lights is an instinct gained when the fish was a baby, living in the river with nothing but his mouth to survive on and his wits. And if it lit on the water, it was a chance for a little protein. The salmon is definitely not coming up to take the fly as a food source now on his run upstream.
We will be right back with more fly fishing. Life is very relaxed here on the Cains River. Bryant and his friends have rented a nice older cabin, which is steeped in fly fishing history. Atlantic salmon fishing is far more than spending time on the water. It is about enjoying the company of good friends and tranquil surroundings. Bryant and his friend Dale have gone to different parts of the river while I fished a lower section. Of course, they found some active fish, wherein I did not.
That's about the salmon. They're all in this run here. Small grilse, around 3 1/4, 3.5 pounds. Quite lively. He's a new fish. He's not new, but he's new to the river. Very lively. Come back here, baby. Okay, he's mine. Bring him over. Stay low in the water.
Nice fish, Brian.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to cooperate for the camera.
We will be right back with more fly fishing.
This is a resident fish. He's been here all summer. He's quite dark. And he hasn't jumped. He took a dry fly, a Macintosh. You're not going to jump. Just struggle. Nice sized grills. We shorten him up a little bit. He's just as brown as a trout. Here he is.
The Cains River is usually stained a coppery red color due to mineral deposits at its source. Anglers have compensated for this tint by designing and using a number of wet flies which have been found to be very effective on this river system. Noted flies include the copper killer, alley shrimp, and the LT special. Popular surface flies include the brown bomber and white wolf. For the tie-in recipes for these flies and others, please visit our website at www.thenewflyfisher.com. Casting to a new pool can be a daunting challenge for anyone, especially if you do not know where the salmon lie. The best way of approaching a pool is to methodically work it over. Pick a point on the other side of the river at approximately a 45-degree angle. Then make progressive casts to the same point, each one longer in length. Once you have made the farthest cast you can to that point, then take 2 steps downstream and repeat the process. By doing this, each cast will position the fly through a full swing or arc that will eventually fully cover all areas of the pool.
The pool is like a holding pool. It's very deep. The fish move up in here in the summer. Again, like I explained earlier, your pools are, the Miramichi is mostly shallow with deep resting pools where the fish will come up and rest until the water gets pleasant for them to move on to their spawning grounds. So this is one of the quieter pools. It's on the Cains where your fish rest and just relax for the summer until that water temperature reaches 34 degrees, and then they go about their business and spawn.
The leader we use today for surface fishing is very simple. Unlike most trout leader systems, you want to keep it simple. Key factors are a strong tippet for aggressively fighting a fish quickly to hand, and also stiff leader material to aid in turning over larger flies. I truly enjoyed my time with Bryant Freeman and his friends. Unfortunately, I didn't catch any fish, but that is pretty typical in Atlantic salmon fishing. Some people catch all the fish and others catch none. And I guess this time, for me, it was none. From all of us here at the New Fly Fisher, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. While fishing and exploring in New Brunswick, we stayed at the Upper Oxbow Outdoor Adventures Lodge. They are located on a beautiful stretch of the Miramichi and are happy to arrange fishing, canoeing, or even hunting trips. You can reach them toll-free at 1-888-227-6100. If you are coming to New Brunswick to fly fish or explore, then we recommend you rent your vehicle from the good people at Avis. You can make reservations for your stay at 1-506-446-6006.
The Atlantic Salmon Federation is making a difference with wild Atlantic salmon. If you would like to become involved, visit us on our website or dial our toll-free number.
The new Fly Fisher is sponsored by Bank of Montreal Atlantic Salmon Federation MasterCard, Ducks Unlimited, Canada's conservation company, Teton Fly Reels.